Hey everyone, this is Coloring Chemist. My name is Connie, and welcome back to my channel. I had a few people ask me recently if there were certain Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens that I would suggest that would be colors that would complement the Faber-Castell Pitt Pen color range. And you know, I thought I had done a video about it before, but I can't find it. I might have mentioned it, maybe it was within another video, but there certainly wasn't a video that was just about that. So I thought, well, that's, you know, I can do a video about that. So I don't know that this will be a very long video, although you know me, I'm always capable of rambling on for heaven knows how long on coloring subjects. But I went through and I pulled what I thought were colors that would complement the Pitt Pen color range, Faber-Castell Pitt Pen color range. So for any of you that are not familiar, I've got some Staedtler pigment pens here, but I will grab, just to show you, this is a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen with a brush nib. And these pens are unique in that they contain a water-soluble ink, but it's an India ink. It's a pigment-based ink, not a dye-based ink. The vast majority of markers will have dye-based inks, whether they are alcohol or water-based markers. The dye, the colorant within the dye in markers is typically, the colorant within the ink of markers is typically a dye. So to have a colorant that's a pigment in a marker is a pretty special thing. Pigments are more reserved for colored pencils, although you can have dyes in colored pencils as well. Artist grade paints, that sort of thing. Pigments and dyes are both colorants, but the particle size, the little bits of pigments are typically bigger. So pigments are, they're not ground, as in, you know, ground up, as fine as dye particles. And so they tend to sit on the surface of whatever you're putting them on. I love coloring with Faber-Castell Pitt pens. And before Staedtler came out with these, because before Staedtler came out with these were really the only game in town. Faber-Castell has had Pitt pens out for, gosh, years and years. And they really are a unique coloring tool. So before Staedtler came out, I had the full set of these. There are technically, I'm going to say there's 61 colors if you count white as a color, and 6 metallics. Although there are some discontinued colors in different lines of these. But if we're talking about just this line, so this is the brush pens. They have a very small brush nib, so it's doesn't look like a typical alcohol marker nib. And there is a learning curve with learning how to use these for coloring. And I do have some videos out on my channel. I have a playlist. I think it's called All Things Faber-Castell, or maybe I actually even have a playlist for pigment pens. I think I might. I'll try and remember to link it below. I really should do more color alongs using these, but I just haven't quite gotten around to that yet. So again, there were 60-ish colors of these pens. And then, was it 2 years ago? Staedtler came out with what's, I think, basically their version of the Faber-Castell Pitt Pen. Now, the Staedtler pens, I don't think anywhere on them, they do say they're a pigment brush pen. And if we look at the nib, that looks very similar to the Pitt Pen nib. They don't say anywhere on them, and I don't ever remember seeing any advertising that say these are India ink, whereas the Pitt pens definitely say India ink. But the formulation of the ink that's in these Staedtler pens is slightly different. than the Pitt pens, I will say that. Although I use them interchangeably all the time and there's not a problem. But as far as I can tell, if they're saying it's a pigment brush pen, it's probably India ink in there as well. But I'm guessing at that. Originally, there were 36 colors of the Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens. And then, probably about a year ago, I'm thinking like February 2024, somewhere around in there, they came out with an additional 24 colors to bring their range up to 60 colors as well. You can, not in a lot of places, but in some stores, get the original 36 Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens through open stock. These Pitt pens, Faber-Castell Pitt Pens, are available through open stock in lots of different places. If you go to fine art stores in whatever country you're in, you can probably find these through open stock. These are more difficult to find. Cult Pens in the UK has the original 36 colors available through open stock. They don't yet, and I'm recording this in March 2025, they don't yet have the additional 24 colors available through open stock. And I'm trying to remember, there may be a store, an online store in Germany, maybe, or maybe another one in the UK. I do remember seeing somewhere that an online store had all 60 of the Staedtler Pigment Brush Pen colors available through open stock, but I got all excited and then got sad because they didn't ship to Canada, which is where I am. So, yeah, I'm going to showcase the colors here that I think complement the Faber-Castell Pitt Pen color range, but with that caveat that I don't know that you can buy all of these colors through open stock, because I'm picking colors from the original 36 set, but I'm also picking some colors from the new expanded range, and the only way to get those colors might be to buy, I know if you go to Amazon Germany or Amazon UK, you should be able to get a 24 set of those new colors. That would be the only way to get other colors as well, but yeah. So Cult Pens, you can get the original 36 through open stock. I did email Cult Pens, I think it was like fall of 2024, and asked them if they were going to get the extra 24 colors and have them available through open stock. And my contact did say yes, but she basically said sometime in 2025. So that here we're in March 2025 and they're not yet available. It could be, I don't know, who knows, it could be even the end of 2025. But folks were interested in the colors that I thought would be, a useful addition, so that's what we'll do. These color swatches that I have here, this is basically the two sets, the 60 Faber-Castell Pitt Pens and the 60 Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens combined and put into my own color order. So this is just my color order. It's not anything I found anywhere else. There's also a few strange additions in here, and I'll talk about those when I get to them. But, if anybody wants to see this, you certainly can pause the video right now and zoom in, take a screenshot. I didn't put color names on here, but I did put color numbers. And so you'll notice some of them just have numbers like 101, 103. This BB, that's Big Brush 102. And so Faber-Castell, once upon a time, had, just going to grab it here, Pitt pens that looked like this. They no longer make these. You can sometimes still find them here and there, but they're pretty hard to find. They had a great big brush, but they were still India ink, and they were still, the same formulation of ink that's in the smaller pens. And there were a few colors that occurred in these pens that don't occur in the regular Pitt pen range. So if you see a BB in front of something, I think there's 3 of them on here. There's BB 102 Cream, which doesn't occur in the smaller Pitt pens. There's BB 160, which is I think it was manganese violet. Doesn't occur in the smaller Pitt pens, and BB 278, which is chromium green opaque. No, chrome oxide green. Doesn't occur in the smaller Pitt pens. So, I mean, if you wanted those colors, you could certainly try and find them. If you go to the Faber-Castell online store, sometimes you can still buy a few of those, but they're getting harder and harder to find. And then if we just sort of keep going, 104. So the ones that just have numbers, those are the color numbers from the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. And then you'll get to something I've written here, 105S. So any number with an S following it on here means Staedtler. So 105S, for example, is the Staedtler Pastel Yellow Pigment Pen. So, yeah, just to explain my numbering system. And the only reason I put the S on there, it's not that the S occurs in the color number on the actual Staedtler pens, and I'll show you in a second where to find that color number. I just put the S there because otherwise I wouldn't be able to tell which were which. So going through, you'll notice, see here, for example, we've got 104, which is a Faber-Castell pen, and then 105S. Those colors are pretty close. So, would I suggest getting 105S? Probably not. There's kind of no point. 107 and then 1S. The 1S, of course, is a Staedtler color. Again, pretty close. So, is there any point in buying 1S, which I think is just called yellow in Staedtler? Probably not. The first one that I got to in terms of the Staedtler colors that I thought was somewhat unique was actually their orange. So, I'm just going to show you here. The Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens have a color name right there. You can see it. So it says orange. It's got some stars after it. That's a light fast rating. If you turn the pen, so we see there's a barcode here, and then right there, can you see it says art and then NR, art number, and then 371-4? That 4 is the color number. And Staedtler actually does have a color system. So number 4 is orange across, I think, all of their ranges. So, if you have Staedtler colored pencils, some of which, Staedtler makes some pretty cheap colored pencils too that don't have color names and numbers. But if you have a little bit, some of the more expensive ones that do have color names and numbers, number 4 is orange. And Staedtler's orange, which is right there, that's the only other orange that you would get. That's the orange from the Pitt Pen set. I think it's called Orange Glaze. So if you're looking for sort of a really bright, true, carroty orange, I would think that orange from the Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens is worthwhile getting. It does have some reds, which are interesting. Like this 24S is a very orangey red, but again, you're sort of looking in here, and there are definitely differences in, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for an art word. It's not shade. Maybe it's shade. No, that's not the right word. Differences in whether they lean cool or warm. I'm sure there's a word for that, but I can't think of what it is. I'm sure you guys will correct me, or you'll let me know down in the comments below. So we've got some reds in here. This 118, that's a Faber-Castell. 24S, that's a Staedtler. It is unique-ish. 121, and then there's 2S, so that's another Staedtler. 219, that's Faber-Castell. The next one that I came to that I thought was kind of unique is this 229S. So this is one of the new colors. It's called Cherry Red. Now, it's similar to 223, right? Those two colors are pretty close. But here's the thing. 223 is called Deep Red in the Faber-Castell Pitt Pens. This used to come in the 60 set, if you bought the full 60 set of Faber-Castell Pitt Pens. I don't know how long ago this changed. I'm going to say within the last 5 years, because I bought my original 60 set of Pitt pens probably about 6, 7 years ago. And it used to not contain a white. You had to buy the white separately. So 60 colors, and this was one of them. Recently, I was looking at a listing for the colors that come in the 60 set. This is no longer available. So it's not in that 60 set anymore. Instead, the 60 set contains a white. Now, the white pen is fabulously useful. I use it all the time. But since that 223 no longer comes in the 60 set, so you can see, I mean, you know, if I take that out, that 229S is a pretty handy color. It's a deep kind of almost true red. You know, it doesn't lean too orange. It doesn't lean too purple. Yeah. So even though I know those look similar, like I say, that 223 doesn't come with the set anymore, and you can't buy it open stock either. I think they've just discontinued that color in Pitt pens. So yeah, the cherry red 229 is a good color, I think. Then we've got some, you know, like 127, 23S. Those are pretty close. 260S, that's a Staedtler pen, it's pretty close to 133. 68S, again, it's almost like the 260 and the 68S fall on either side of the 133 for the Faber-Castell. The next one I thought was worth getting is this 21. This is one of the original colors. This is Light Rosé. And there really isn't a color like this in the Pitt pen range. The closest, I would say, is maybe over here in the peaches, but this definitely is more pink than peach. I mean, it's got a peachy kind of undertone, but there's like a coral color in the Pitt pen range, but this is pinkier. And the lightest pink you get in the Pitt pen range is this, well, you do have 114, which I think is called apricot, but that, I mean, that's definitely pretty peachy, right? And then you have this 129, which is their, is that Pink Madder Lake? I think it is. Yeah. Which is not a really light pink, right? And so I do think this light rosé color is worth getting. I will put, and I know, I'm yammering on, it's 17 minutes already. I will put a list of these down below, so if you don't want to watch this whole video, you can just look at the list. So that was light rosé. There's also a rosé pink, which is the one that's right under it, 208. It's close-ish to the Faber-Castell color 129, but I still think worth getting. It's again, it's a nice light pink. It's a less peachy pink, so if you're doing a lot of florals and that sort of thing, this could be really handy. These colors, I mean, they're pretty close. This really light violety color is you know, between the Staedtler and Pitt pens is pretty close. The purple color, I think there's, no, violet, sorry. The Staedtler Violet, number 6, I think is worth getting. Mostly because in Pitt pens, there isn't a really, you can see this is almost a reddish violet. The only violet color, I mean, okay, so this BB160, kind of ignore that because that's a big brush and you probably can't get it. You know, you've got this 134, which I think is magenta or something in the Pitt pen range. And then you've got this 136, which I think is their version of, I think they call this violet, purple violet. But it's pretty dark, right? And it definitely, to me, has, they call it purple violet, but to me it almost has a bluier tone to it. So getting the the violet, sorry, and again, this is one of the original colors, in the Staedtler Pigment Brush Pen gives you, I don't know, just like a nice mid-tone, you know, purple violet color. So I thought that one was worth getting. The next two are right there. So 308 and 63. Hazy Blue, that's this one here. And Delft Blue, that's this one here. they're just some really beautiful desaturated blue colors that you don't get in the Pitt Pen range. They go really nicely with 220, which isn't a Pitt Pen range, which is their light indigo. Hazy Blue, are these both new colors? I'm pretty sure Delft Blue is a new color. Was Hazy Blue an old color? Gosh, I can't even remember anymore. I've been using them all together for so long. But yeah, those are, if you're into really those grayed out desaturated colors, those are great colors. Those three together make a really nice sort of blending combo, if you want to think of it that way. The next one that I thought was worth getting is this one down here, this 36, which is Indigo. And again, in the Pitt Pen range, you do have this 247, which is that indanthrene? Where is it? There it is. Yeah, indanthrene blue. Close in color, but I think this 36 Indigo is just a really nice, it's a really nice, deep, rich blue that can either sort of be used with sort of true blues or even the violety blues. Yeah, so I like that indigo color. This $3.99, this navy blue, this is a new color, I'm pretty sure. There really isn't a blue this dark in the Faber-Castell Pitt Pens. There is an indigo, or is it dark indigo, that I actually put way over here that's a Pitt Pen color. It's just called indigo. It's called dark indigo, 157. And, I mean, it theoretically is a blue, but it's a very, very gray blue. It's a beautiful color, don't get me wrong. But this navy blue here, it's definitely blue. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's nice to have those really dark, deep colors. So yeah, navy blue, $3.99. This light blue is this one here. And again, it's close to 110, which is a Staedtler color, which is the one I think I was showing all the time here. It's not a Staedtler color. Faber-Castell color. Phthalo blue. This is almost just sort of a lighter version of that phthalo blue, which can be nice, right? Because otherwise, in the Pitt Pen range, you've got this 148, which I think they call ice blue, which is very similar to 310 in the Staedtler range, so I choose that one. But you go from 148 down to this 110 in the Pitt Pen color range. That's a pretty big jump, right? And so it's nice to have something that's a little bit lighter, and this light blue by Staedtler, I think, fits the bill pretty nicely. The next three pens, actually, I'm going to put that one up there, are, I put them together in terms of, you know, them being sort of a blending family, and there's really nothing like them in the Pitt Pen range. The Pitt Pen range has these 154 and 153 colors, which are they're blues, but they lean slightly green. And then they go into over here, you've got definitely greens that lean slightly blue, but nothing in between that's kind of almost like a true teal or a turquoise color, right? That's where these three Staedtler pens, I think, really fill a gap. So we've got 505, which Staedtler calls mint. And then we've got 35, which Staedtler calls turquoise. And then 355, which Staedtler calls teal. So to me, those three together, mint, turquoise, and teal, are filling, you know, I realize 35 looks, you know, quite similar to 156, but to me, on camera, maybe it looks different, but to me, they're definitely different colors, and I think those three together are just a nice combo. The next one, this $3.95, that's Petrol Blue. Again, there's really nothing around it, whether it be in Staedtler or Pitt Pens, that's that deep of like a true kind of blue-green, right? So yeah, again, some of these really deep colors can be handy sometimes. This is the next one. So this is just what Staedtler just calls green, number 5. I think it's, well, there isn't really a just sort of a green in the Pitt Pen range. Now, I don't use true green very often in my coloring. I lean much more towards using yellow greens, but I mean, sometimes it's nice to have a true green. And you know, the Pitt Pens have this 264, which I think is their phthalo green or dark phthalo green. But yeah, like this sort of, you know, true primary green doesn't really occur in Pitt Pens, so that can be a handy one to have. To sort of go along with that, this 539 here, they call it Fir Green in Staedtler. Again, you know, Pitt Pens don't have these really dark colors a lot of the time, particularly in their greens. They seem to struggle with that. So not a green I would reach for very often, but can be handy to have. So that's Fir Green. And then we get into my favorite color section, sort of the more yellowy greens. Now, again, I'm not, these are almost still too green, if that makes sense. My favorites sort of start right about there. So 171, 170 is my favorite all-time color, I think, of any color range in any Faber-Castell. To me, you know, hit the ball out of the park with 170, which is their May green. Staedtler has one called Willow Green, which I actually didn't include as one that you may want to, you know, get. It is slightly brighter than the May green. So, I mean, yeah, there's a difference. But if you have your May green, I think you could brighten that up by just using, you know, even a little bit of the 171 to blend it out. I don't know if this is necessary. I mean, it's fun, but it's not, you know, maybe not necessary. But this 57 here, I think, is a fantastic color to have. And that is olive green in the Staedtler pens. Because if you look at, the Pitt Pen color range, we've got 171, which I think is their light green, 170, May green, and then you have to go all the way down here to get sort of darker greens, and then suddenly we're moving away from the yellow greens, and now we're moving into sort of the earthier greens. So, you know, after 170, it's kind of like, well, where's my dark? Now, I understand you can underpaint with grays and do all kinds of things like that, but sometimes it's just nice to have a darker version. So this olive green in Staedtler, I think is a great color. I use it with, with the willow in the Staedtler, but I also use it with the May green Pitt Pen all the time. So olive green. And then in the new colors, they came out with something even darker, and they called it olive dark. So that's this one here, 579. Again, you know, great color. I think to have that darker olivey green is a great thing. This one is truly fabulous. This is called Pastel Green, and I'm pretty sure this is a new color. It's this one here, 507. You can use this. It's a super light, I want to say neutral green, but that's probably not the color I'm looking for. Or not the word I'm looking for. I can't. Basically, it's a light green that doesn't lean too much any particular way. It doesn't lean too yellow. It doesn't lean too blue. It doesn't lean... It just... You can use it to blend out virtually any green combination. And so, because these newer colors are difficult to find open stock, what I did was, if you go on Amazon Germany, you can buy boxes of 10 of the Staedtler Pigment Brush Pens. So I actually bought a box of 10 of these pastel green because they're so useful. Hopefully I go through them before they dry out. They don't seem to dry out quickly, so I should be good. But yeah, Pastel Green 507, brilliant color. because it's just, I can use it to blend out all kinds of different, I've used it with these two Pitt pens, the 172 and 174. That's their earth green and chromium green opaque, maybe? Yeah. But I've also used it to blend out the May green. I've used it to blend out the willow, and I've even just used it. I mean, that's a pretty big jump between this pastel green and the olive in the Staedtler. But if you get the right paper and you can get these inks to move, that will blend out as well. So super, super useful color, pastel green. The next one I pulled was actually this 207, which it's called Dusty Rose. I like it. It's a pretty color. It sort of falls between the 132 and 189 Pitt pens. 132 is, it used to be called, I think I have an old one here. Oh, no, maybe this is a new one. It's called Beige Red. I think it also used to be called like Flesh Medium or something like that, but now it's called Beige Red. And then 189 is Cinnamon. And this sort of falls between those two. I really love that color family in there. So that's why I chose to include 207 Dusty Rose. But I mean, if those aren't colors that you use very often, you know, you could probably skip this one. 132 and 189 in the Pitt pen range, you can blend those together. I've done that. This I'm pretty sure is a new color. Yeah, I think it is. 470. So I'm actually going, so that one, and I'm going to skip over all these. I would not use these colors. They're not my colors. You've got a few nice colors here, like the 16 in the Staedtler pen, but it's virtually identical to the green gold in the Pitt pens. The 730 is a nice color, but it's virtually identical to the 186, which is the terracotta in the Pitt pen colors. So, you know, I don't really see much point. Even in here, you've got a lot of shades that are quite similar. So the next one that I chose that was unique and I think is a good addition is this Dune 470. There really isn't a color like that in the Pitt pen range. It's like a light brown, a light reddish brown, and there just kind of isn't anything like that. So you had Dune 470. The Pitt pen color range really does struggle with browns. You've got this Caput Mortuum here, and then you've got 180. 180 is raw umber. You've got a dark sepia, and then you've got your nougat. And then there's a walnut brown, and then that's it, right? You know, I realize you've got like green gold and these sorts of colors, but, you know, sort of browns, it really struggles in the browns. So I picked out quite a number of these Staedtler colors, brown colors, to sort of, you know, pad out the Pitt pen range. So, I mean, Dune, I guess, could technically be one of the browns too, right? It's that kind of lightish red-brown. The one right below it, though, 76. It's the Staedtler, they just call it brown. That's a great addition, I think, because there just really isn't, like I say, for browns, you've got that one there in Pitt, that one, and those two. So 76 is like, I mean, it's brown. You know, when you think about little kids coloring with a brown crayon, I mean, I think that's the color you think, right? 78 is a really nice dark, rich brown, which is similar to the walnut brown of the Pitt pens, but I think it's richer a little bit and goes really nicely with the regular brown. So yeah, dark brown, that's a new color, if I'm remembering correctly. And then these three together, those are all new colors as well. Actually, is Ivory a new color? Ivory may not be. So we've got Ivory, which there is an Ivory in the Pitt pens as well, but it leans much more yellow, whereas this Ivory to me leans much more brown. less yellow. I don't know. That's why I put it over here rather than over here with this ivory. So the Staedtler Ivory is different than the Pitt Pen Ivory, and I think it works really well with the next two. This 407, that's light sand, and then 450 is just called sand. So you've got ivory, light sand, and sand, which work really well. You know, you think about those five right there, and then you've got 178, 177, those are Pitt Pen colors. But those five, you know, you've got a really nice range of browns going from, you know, super light all the way down to dark. So that's why I suggested those. And the very last one, they're intense black. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull one more. Staedtler has something called a light black, which is right there. Now, it is pretty close to the darkest cold gray that the Pitt Pens have, but it's not quite the same, and it is kind of a handy color. So they have light black, and then right there is the Pitt Pen black. And then Staedtler has something called intense black, and I would really suggest this because they mean it. It's black. Whereas the Pitt Pen black, it's black, but the intense black from Staedtler is blacker. So that's a suggestion I would make as well. So how many did I end up? I didn't even count here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 28 colors. I mean, at this point, you're probably thinking, why don't I just buy all 60? But I guess 28 is still less than half of 60. But this is just my opinion, you know. You might be looking at my color cards here. Maybe you'll see some colors that you think, no, I would rather choose one of those other colors to supplement and you know, leave some of these colors off. So again, just my opinion. But yeah, a couple people had asked me if I had some suggestions as to Staedtler Pitt Pen color or Staedtler Pigment Pen colors that I would suggest that would complement the Faber-Castell Pitt Pen color range. And that's what I came up with. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Standard stuff at the end, you know, like, comment, subscribe, let friends know, that sort of thing. Hope everyone is safe. I hope everyone is well. And I hope everyone is enjoying their coloring. Till next time, folks, take care. Bye-bye.